matters, we will be taking the report of the Steering and Rules Committee out of order, and I would ask the clerk to read the sales tax item last, Mr. Clerk.
The Steering and Rules Committee recommends adoption of 76, substitute resolution relating to possible legal action to overturn certain provisions of 2023 Act 12 and allocating American Rescue Plan Act funds for the Office of Equity and Inclusion and the Office of African American Affairs.
I'd like to say that Alderwoman Dimitrievich moves to send back to Steering and Rules item 76-230338. Are there any objections to that motion? Hearing none, so ordered.
Item 77, substitute resolution directing the Commissioner of Public Works to apply to the Federal Transit Administration for a capital investment grant program, Small Starts Grant, to extend the Milwaukee streetcar to the Fiserv Forum and to Brady, Farwell Prospect, and to enter project development for extensions to Bronzeville and Walker's Point, consistent with the plan included for the draft update to the downtown area plan. 78, substitute resolution expressing the city's opposition to various provisions in 2023 Act 12 and directing city representatives to work for their repeal. 79, substitute resolution directing the city attorney's office to review the legality of provisions contained in 2023 Wisconsin Act 12 relating to the city of Milwaukee. The Steering and Rules Committee recommends placing on file the following. 80, communication from the Democratic Convention Host Committee relating to the 2020 convention. 81, communication from the Fire and Police Commission relating to certain recent investigations. 82, communication from the Mayor's Office and others relating to staffing and appointments to the Fire and Police Commission. 83, communication from various city departments relating to the impacts of a 10%, 20%, and 25% budgetary reduction on staffing, operations, and services provision and possible fee increases. 84, communication relating to the fiscal impact of various provisions of 2023 Wisconsin Act 12. 85, communication relating to the equity impact of various provisions of 2023 Act 12. And the Steering and Rules Committee recommends passage of item 75, a substitute ordinance relating to a city sales and use tax.
Alderwoman Dimitrievich.
Yes, good morning, Mr. President. I'm speaking on item 75, and I move to add the following uncodified provision to the ordinance. It's in front of everybody if you'll read along with me. The City of Milwaukee elects to join the Wisconsin Retirement System for all new employees in accordance with the provisions of the 2023 Act 12, and the appropriate city officials are directed to complete the resolution of inclusion under the Wisconsin Retirement System attached to this file, pursuant to 2023 Act 12. I further move for passage of the file as amended. If there are questions on this technical amendment that we were made aware of yesterday and you received in your email inboxes yesterday explaining it, we'll direct those to the city clerk, but I do make that motion, Mr. President.
Okay. Any objections to the simple motion made by Alderwoman Dimitrievich? Hearing none, so ordered. Alderman Stamper.
My light is not on, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Alderman Borkowski.
Mr. President, thank you. I wasn't sure how we're going to be voting, but I want to make sure that I was consistent with my committee vote on item number 77, 230354. I will be staying consistent and voting no.
Okay, let the record reflect Alderman Borkowski's consistent vote on item 77. Alderman Spiker?
Likewise, consistent with my vote at committee, I'd like to be recorded as a no on 77. Thank you.
Okay, let the record reflect Alderman Spiker's no vote on item 77. Alderman Stamper, did you want to make a motion on 75?
No, sir. I'd like to hear some discussion on 75, though.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome. Yeah. Did anyone have any questions about item 75?
Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
On this motion, does it affect what we learned in regards to how the money will be going to the retirement system in the future? Does it affect that anyway? Any dollars being changed?
No.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on 75? Alderman Stamper?
Yes, I'm looking forward to some comments today. Everybody is quiet. So, Mr. President, I'd like to call recess, please.
Okay, Alderman Stamper has moved that the Common Council enter a brief recess. Is there any objection to that recess? Okay, hearing none, the council will be in recess for 10 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Come back to order. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Alderwoman Pratt.
Here.
Chambers. Rostov. Bauman. Here. Westmoreland. Here. Cogs.
Present.
Rainey. Here. Zamaripa.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Murphy.
Present.
Borkowski.
Here.
Spiker.
Here.
Dimitrievich.
Here.
Stamper. Mr. President,
Present.
15 members are present.
15 members present. Where we left off was the Steering and Rules Committee files were read into the record. Is there any discussion? Any discussion at all? Alderman Bauman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. You know, this has indeed been an interesting and dramatic process. I don't think we've ever had 8 cameras on the floor of the Common Council. I didn't know we had that many TV stations in Milwaukee, but we're gratified to see their interest. You know, I've been serving on this body for 20 years, and for the entire 20 years, we have dealt with the fiscal cliff. We have dealt with diminished or frozen shared revenue. We have dealt with levy limits constricting our ability to raise property taxes. We've dealt with rebuffs at the state legislature when we sought additional revenue options, like a local option sales tax that we're considering today. And every year, thanks to the skill of our various budget directors, up to and including our current budget director, and the skill and good faith and hard work of various councils and various chairs of the Finance Committee and various Common Council presidents, we always muddle through. We maintain basic services to the greatest extent possible. There were cuts here and there, but by and large, the city functioned, the city moved forward, and I think we did a pretty good job given the challenges that we faced. The fiscal cliff was really going to be upon us in 21, 22, 23, but thanks to Joe Biden and the federal government, the American Rescue Plan Act was passed, and the city received a substantial infusion of resources, which allowed us to keep the wolf from the door for another 2 or 3 years. Well, as we've heard, and as we've all been briefed by the Budget Office in great detail, the wolf is at the door. We can't chase the wolf away anymore, and we are dealing with some serious challenges which have to be addressed. We did get a solution. The state legislature did enable us to adopt a local option sales tax of 2%, which raises real revenue. I mean, we're talking $193 million a year plus, and presumably that will grow as the economy grows in years going forward. But there were some strings attached. There were some policy mandates that the state legislature imposed on the city, which were frankly outrageous. They caused many of us to have a sense of anger, frustration, sadness, even depression, that the economic engine of Wisconsin, the economic engine of the region, namely the city of Milwaukee, was not recognized for the importance that it had to the well-being of the state of Wisconsin overall, that there was such bias and prejudice and antagonism in the state legislature that they couldn't just allow us a straight-up vote on a local option sales tax and then we deal with the what if any political consequences followed. No, they had to attach all sorts of mandates, everything from blocking streetcar expansion to changing the Fire and Police Commission to requiring MPS to take action. They weren't even part of this discussion. MPS was never at the table, and somehow they got drawn into this process. And I can appreciate that those policy provisions, those mandates, made a lot of us very angry, and in turn our constituents very angry, I among them. And then as we discussed this internally and as we went back and forth among ourselves, we put together a package of pushback measures. We're going to review the legality of some of these provisions, and if there's questions as to their legality, we are going to pursue litigation. And perhaps we get a favorable Supreme Court of Wisconsin to reverse some of the very unfavorable rulings that have come down recently regarding the home rule powers of the city of Milwaukee. A lot of these policy provisions are very well set up for challenges under home rule. We're going to pursue that. We're going to pursue streetcar expansion, notwithstanding the mandate of the Wisconsin legislature. We're going to pursue diversity, equity, and inclusion funding, notwithstanding the mandates of the legislature. We're going to instruct our lobbyists to work very diligently to reverse these measures to the greatest extent possible, and hopefully when there's a new map drawn for the legislative districts of Wisconsin, we might get a more favorable legislature that will recognize the true worth and value that the city of Milwaukee represents for the state as a whole. And then there's the element that has been brought up, and I think by some of my colleagues, and I think it's 100% valid, that these policy mandates had an air of racism to them. Milwaukee being the most diverse city in the state of Wisconsin, Milwaukee containing the lion's share of African Americans and Latino residents in the state of Wisconsin, being a majority minority city. This was something that I thought was very real, and I can appreciate how that bristles and how that antagonizes, and that doesn't go down very well. And then at the end of the day, we all represent people, and we serve at the pleasure of our constituents, and we require the consent of the governed ultimately to do anything. And some of our constituents weren't happy either. They took great offense at these policy mandates, and they demanded that we take hard positions in opposition to this sales tax, even if they acknowledge that, well, we may be cutting off our face we may be cutting off our noses to spite our faces a little bit here, but damn it, we got to show we're not going to be railroaded, we're not going to be run down the way this has transpired. I'm not going to advocate anybody vote for or against this. I think we've all been briefed on the facts. We all know the consequences of not having this revenue. We all know the consequences of getting this revenue. We all know the remedies, the mitigation that we've approved to move forward, to push back on these policy mandates. We all understand that in great detail. So I'm not going to urge anyone to vote for it, vote against it. You all know the facts, and I think based on that, for me, I will support this local option sales tax, primarily because of the other measures that we have passed today and will be passing in the near future regarding pushback against the state legislature, both in court and in other venues. So that, I think, is my story. I'm just going to tell it from a personal standpoint. Everyone has to make their own decision based on their relationship with their constituents and their own best judgment. But as I say, there's no question that severe consequences follow from not taking action, and we'll all have to deal with that in our own hearts and minds. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Alderman. Alderwoman Pratt?
I just want to tell my story also. So I worked as a paraprofessional in Milwaukee Public Schools for years. I earned less than $20,000 a year in that job. If I was still in that position and told that I must now pay over $300 towards a sales tax, which is like missing over half a paycheck, it would have devastated my family. And while the number may seem negligible to some, it matters significantly to many. Throughout this process, I've asked that we prioritize those among us who do not earn a family-sustaining wage and are on fixed incomes. Contrary to the narrative that has been fashioned, I love Milwaukee. I'd argue that choosing to remain here, knowing all the statistics, only compounds that love. I do not want to see us fail. I also do not want to save a city by sacrificing citizens. I reject the idea that to disagree is illogical. I reject the idea that the people we represent don't understand or care, and I vehemently reject the idea that we do not have a choice, because the people I represent are always my first choice. I choose to not build a city on the back of elders who are on a fixed income. I choose not to have struggling working families foot the bill while they are simultaneously targeted by poison policy. I choose to believe that the people's voice deserves to be heard. This vote has brought both incentivized offers and threats, thinly veiled and obvious, but my goal throughout has remained the same: represent the people and their interests, and I intend to stand on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Alderwoman Zamarripa?
Thank you, Mr. President. I do not take this vote lightly. The press has called this the most important vote in the history of the Common Council, and perhaps they're right. And it's become clear to me that my colleagues do not take this vote lightly either. It's why we saw so many of these organic sales tax town halls across the city, from the north side to the south side. And we saw heartfelt open letters from some of our colleagues to their constituents. One of my colleagues did a postcard survey and was very moved by the responses that he got. And I want to thank my colleagues, wherever you're at on this vote. I want to thank us all, because I know not one of us, whether you're a no vote or a yes vote, took this vote lightly, nor should we. This is a very impactful vote, as Alderwoman Pratt just said. It impacts our constituency in so many ways. And I just wanted to take the time to thank my colleagues again, no matter what side you're on. This is the most important vote of our careers, I think. And I thank you for being thoughtful and diligent and sincere. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Alderwoman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to thank the residents of District 9 and their willingness to hear me out as I shared information for their consideration of how they would like for me to vote for or against the addition of a 2% sales tax on top of the already 5.5% tax that they pay. It is not without great care and consideration that I have thought long and hard about the impact of my vote today. As I ran for this seat to be a voice for the residents, I intend to do just that. I stated before, and I state again, that my vote will always be with that of the residents of District 9. While many of the residents expressed empathy to the needs of the city, they also mentioned their needs and questioned how and when those needs would be addressed. I share their sentiment of how will the needs of those most affected be addressed. Do we sacrifice a few for the greater cause? Do we compromise the integrity of the city for those less fortunate? Can we have a win-win or lose-lose? What is the lesser of the two evils? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the files before us? Alderman Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I was elected November 9th, I ran on the premise that I will be direct and I will be honest with my residents. I came to work 2 days after I got elected. Wasn't sworn in, wasn't anything. Came straight to work, got to the calls, and got work done.
You were in my office, too.
I was in your office countless times. Yes, sir. That's the type of work ethic that, my family raised me in. Hardworking individuals, thoughtful, insightful individuals, and those are the same residents that I, have in the 2nd District. I know that, I have some shoes to fill, with the mayor being there, but, wanted to create my own path. So that's why I took it upon myself with this generational vote that we're facing right now to do a district-wide survey, because I do believe that this type of vote should go directly to the residents, but here we are. Alderwoman Pratt brought up a great point as far as some of the trials and tribulations that we've been through within this whole process. I've personally been deemed an angry black man because I was opinionated about how I feel for our constituents. Well, if, standing up for my constituents who lives on a fixed income, that is 69% home ownership, affecting their having a 2% sales tax, calling me angry black man, then so be it. But I don't see myself as that. I see myself as, a man who grew up in West Lawn, known as Wetline back in the day because of all the gun violence that we faced, knowing that we had to be in the house, before the lights out, otherwise people can get shot. Can't even walk across the street to McDonald's without being feared of getting ran over, getting robbed, even at 10 years old, going and trying to get a Happy Meal. And we were able to, come to great length. I became a father, and I became a representative of the 2nd District. The results of my, my survey overwhelmingly was a no. But I love this city. The city made me. The city made me who I am, and that I'm going to become. I'm a fan of the Bucks. I'm a fan of the Brewers. I also support our people in blue and our firefighters. That will never change. So it puts me in the uncompromising spot. We have an interesting decision to make right now, and I'm going to go with, the people of my 2nd District, and I'm going to vote no on this, Mr. President. Thank you.
Alderwoman Cox?
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to begin by saying I love this city. Could have been anywhere in the world, but I chose to have a family and raise my children in this city, and have the honor of representing folks in this city. I want to say thank you to the many residents, stakeholders, and interested parties who have attended meetings or just shared their thoughts on the sales tax with me over the last several weeks. I also want to very publicly say what I've said to colleagues privately and what I've said to residents often, and that is that reasonable people can disagree on this issue and many more. Everyone says that this is one of the hardest votes we will ever have to take. But over the last several weeks, as information has been scarcely shared, as I have been called, texted, emailed, and even stopped in the streets, the position of the people I actually represent, not interested parties, political operatives, or people of that nature, but the people I actually represent, has overwhelmingly been consistent. I wish the state was more fair with us. I wish the city negotiated a better deal. I wish information was accurately and timely shared with council members and the public all along. I wish we had more time. I wish departments answered questions and factually without efforts at persuasion or anticipation. I wish we had a clean bill that financially helped this city without overreaching, micromanaging, and being racist. I wish we were not a city that prior to Act 12 and the consideration of a 2% sales tax was considered one of the worst places in America to raise black children, or had the highest incarceration rate of black men, and was the worst for just about every socioeconomic indicator for black people in the nation. I wish, in an effort to obtain votes, threats and promises weren't made, and accusations that people leadership, commitment, or concern for this city and all its residents were not brought into question, all in an effort to win a vote in support of this sales tax. I wish the city gave more thought and effort to the ways that we could generate additional revenue and be more efficient with our service delivery models without a negative impact on any of our constituents. Unfortunately, those wishes have not come true, and we are left with a very flawed Act 12, whose provisions have been passed and will be enacted regardless of our vote here today. And the vote we have for the 2% sales tax is before us. That overwhelmingly consistent response I have received from my constituents is concern. Concern for the financial impact on their households that a 2% sales tax will have. I, unlike most of my colleagues, have a district where I represent some of the most affluent people in this city and some of the most impoverished people in this city. Those who are impoverished are very concerned with any money coming out of their household particularly for those on fixed income and who are at or below the poverty level. I have heard from local small business owners who fear that with Milwaukee having a 2% additional sales tax, that customers may make the choice to buy products outside of Milwaukee for cheaper, thus losing them business, or minority business owners who have concerns about their access to future government contracts. I've talked to residents who hate the entire bill. Its lack of fairness on the percentage of shared revenue for Milwaukee, the provisions they believe violate home rule, as well as the provisions that attack efforts to improve conditions for people of color. Those same residents don't appear to be fearful of anybody's cliff. They have a greater concern and a desire for us as a city to, and I quote, fight. Stop accepting peanuts from the state. Don't let the state put us in a chokehold. It is no secret that my final wish would have been to allow the people to decide. I am a strong believer that this should have been a referendum, but since it's not, and we have to vote, I will say these last words, and I mean these for my constituents who I have the privilege and the honor of representing. And to them I say this: I stand fearlessly, ready, willing, and able to collaborate with my colleagues and constituents to work together to find solutions that not only allow us to survive as a city, but that help us, all of us, to thrive. And it is my strong belief, after much deliberation and hearing from countless constituents, that this 2% sales tax does not do that. It is with all of these factors in mind and more that I ask to be recorded as a no. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Stamper.
Thank you, Mr. President. And thank you to the great residents of the 15th Automatic District for electing me to lead the 15th District. It must have been hard going up to the state day by day, week by week. So let me thank the leaders who went to the state on behalf of the residents of Milwaukee. Thank you. And I did have hope. Since I've been elected and prior, they said it was because of Tom Barrett. They don't like Tom Barrett. Tom Barrett can't get anything done. We gotta wait until the new administration appears. So I was hopeful. So then we receive a new administration, a new mayor, new leadership all over the board. And after months of negotiations, information, discussions, calls, texts, we are presented with a bad deal. If you talk to the leaders, they were under more duress than what we received. So the state and the individuals who developed this bill and supported this bill that want to put harm upon Milwaukee, this was already premeditated. So they're taking advantage of the money that they know we need. So that's fine. I had hope, but it's clear that they are not our friends. And if they are not our friends, then they are our enemies. Make no mistake about it, they are our enemies. They're happy or proud that they gave us the ability to implement a sales tax. But one of my mentors always said, if you stick a knife in the back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. We're still short. We still got to scramble. The numbers are unclear. We have the best information that people can put together as possible. And we're still going to struggle. However, every adversity, every failure, every heartbreak carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit, which means I've seen the executive branch and the legislative branch in the last couple of days, hours, work together. I've seen aldermen talk more than they did in the last couple of days than they ever did. So we have to take advantage of what we know and what we have to do. You know, throughout history, I've never experienced or just read about or can't even imagine black codes. I can't even imagine Jim Crow laws or redlining. That must have been despicable. But I am living through Act 12. And as we've always done, and what we always will do, and what we have and must do, is be resilient, be successful, be strong, patient, and wise, just like we've always been. So I welcome this new opportunity. And yes, options are limited. And I just want to know if they understand that these are real people, real people's lives that we have to lead, real people's lives that we have to work through, real people's lives that we have to deal with and help. And they're just making it harder. But we will be stronger and we will survive this. So, when it's time to vote, I will be voting, and I just wanted to express how I felt about this ordeal in today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Alderwoman Dimitrievich.
Yes, good morning, and thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to just talk a little bit about where I'm at in my district and the communications I've had. What may at times seem like a bit of a divided council is democracy in action. What I've learned over these past couple weeks and months and years of service is what we all know to be true, that many of our districts are not alike at all. We're all one city, but we know we still have challenges ahead of us. It certainly feels different in Bayview than another part of the city. What we've done in these last couple weeks and months is listen to each other, talked about how an impact somewhere feels so different than an impact elsewhere. I was able, with the support of my district, to come out early as a yes vote. I put that out there in a letter. We got a lot of feedback, hundreds of responses back, and I'm in a position with my district where through that communication, I learned a lot about what they value in city services. That was also a learning experience for me. To me, this is about the city services, and like Alderman Stamper mentioned, there's people behind those services. For every phone call to the fire department, every child that picks up a book in a library, those are lives that we're touching in a certain way. What we're united on, even though, of course, there's some division because it's democracy, is what you heard from every member speak so far was a love and a burning love for this city. and wanting it to succeed and succeed for all of us in the same way, in the same equitable way. So for me, I so desperately want to get to work. I want us to not just maintain the same services, but what does that look like if we're not just not closing libraries, we're opening them on Sundays. We're not just responding to phone calls, we're responding to them faster for those in need. That is what I'm interested in. That is why I'll be moving forward with a yes vote. But I have complete respect in a newfound way for every one of my colleagues. No one knows their district better than that local elected alderperson. Struggling out there with a very short amount of time because we didn't know the final details until we just got the final details recently. Out there late at night having town hall meetings, sending letters, mailing surveys, doing everything they can to find out what the impact of this decision would have on your own district. And so I really want to thank everybody in this process. I know I've learned a lot. Again, what appears to be divided at times is also united in a love for the city and moving it forward. And we have to remember that not every neighborhood looks and feels exactly the same way. The decisions we make here have different impacts on different parts of the city. So I'm here speaking up for my district. I feel that I was able to communicate with them and receive support, and that is why I'll be able to be casting a yes vote today, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I'd just like to take a second to thank all of you. I know the process getting here on this 245 and the vote before us today in the sales tax has been challenging. It's been unfair. It's been difficult at times, and I want to just say thank you to all of you for, one, your communication, whether it was anger or disappointment or support. It hasn't been easy, and I want to thank all of you for talking to one another and talking to me and your support through this process. So it's been very important. It's been very heartfelt. So thank you so much. With that said, and no further discussion, I'll ask the clerk to take a roll call on item 75, file 230357.
On the passage of item 75, Alderwoman Pratt.
No.
Chambers.
No.
Rostoff.
Aye.
Bauman.
Aye.
Westmoreland.
Aye.
Coggs.
No.
Rainey.
Aye.
Zamaripa.
Aye.
Taylor.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Borkowski.
Aye.
Spiker.
Aye.
Dmitrievich.
Aye.
Stamper.
Aye.
Mr. President,
Aye.
12 ayes, 3 noes.
12 ayes, 3 noes. The matter passes.
You did.
Could you please call the roll on the rest of the file, please?
On the remainder of the Steering and Rules Committee, with the exception of item 75, Alderwoman Pratt.
Aye.
Chambers.
Aye.
Rostoff.
Aye.
Bauman.
Aye.
Westmoreland.
Aye.
Coggs. Rainey.
Aye.
Zamaripa.
Aye.
Taylor.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Borkowski.
Aye.
Spiker.
Aye.
Dmitrievich.
Aye.
Stamper.
Aye.
Mr. President,
Aye.
15 ayes.
15 ayes. The file is adopted. We will now return to our regular agenda. Will the clerk please inform the Common Council of any commendations or condolences to be acknowledged at this time?
Item number 1, communication from the city clerk relating to various commendatory and condolatory resolutions to be acknowledged and affirmed by the Common Council. 1, resolution congratulating Adoabi Namuchi on being named Miss Juneteenth Day 2023. 2, resolution congratulating Brianna Clemens on being named Little Miss Juneteenth Day 2023. 3, resolution congratulating Mason Donald on being named Mr. Juneteenth Day, Junior 2023. 4, resolution congratulating Adam Putzer on achieving the rank of Eagle Scout. 5, resolution congratulating the Department of Political Science at Marquette University on the occasion of its 100th anniversary of its undergraduate major in political science. 6, resolution recognizing Lake Park Friends Musical Mondays on the occasion of its 25th anniversary. 7, resolution recognizing Reverend Dr. Omotolokun Omokunde on the occasion of his retirement and decades of community service. 8, resolution recognizing Jan von Renz for her contributions to the city of Milwaukee on the occasion of her retirement from the Forest Home Cemetery. 9, resolution expressing condolences to the family and friends of Carol Allison. 10, resolution expressing condolences to the family and friends of Darren Hill Sr. 11, resolution expressing condolences to the family and friends of John H. Drilling. 12, resolution expressing condolences to the family and friends of John Matthew Smoots, Jr. 13, resolution congratulating Jacqueline Johnson on her retirement from the City of Milwaukee's Municipal Court. 14, resolution congratulating Angel Rodriguez on his retirement from the Housing Authority of the City of Milwaukee. 15, resolution congratulating Regina Yeagers on her retirement from the Milwaukee Health Department. 16, resolution congratulating Robert Radmer on his retirement from the Department of Neighborhood Services. 17, resolution congratulating Brian Pellet on his retirement from the Department of City Development. 18, resolutions congratulating the following on their retirements from the Milwaukee Department of Public Works: Annie Gino, Jermaine Speth, Ibrahim Dias, James Pratt, Richard Davila, Robert Young, Ronald Harper. 19, resolutions congratulating the following on their retirements from the Milwaukee Police Department: Aaron Malvik, David Miller, Eli Cole, Monique Foster, Patrick McDermott. 20, resolutions congratulating the following on their retirements from the Milwaukee Public Schools: LaWanda LaFlore, Linda Tate, Linda Wrench, Miroslav Savic, Sherman Dixon, Terry Roby.
Are there any objections to the foregoing commendations and condolences? If anyone wishes to be added as a sponsor to any of the commendations or condolences, please fill out the form on your desk and submit it to the city clerk before the close of workday. We will now take up reports of the other standing committees. Alderwoman Malele A. Coggs will present the report of the License Committee.
Item number 2, the Licenses Committee recommends approval of file number 230345, motion to approve the recommendations of the Licenses Committee relating to licenses. Included in the file are the following recommendations: renewal with a 10-day suspension of the Class B tavern and food dealer licenses based upon the preponderance of the evidence in the police report and applicant testimony that demonstrates the operation results in a threat to the health, safety, or welfare of the public. For the premise located at 3261 South 13th Street, doing business as Tucanazo Taqueria y Mariscos in the 14th Aldermanic District. No written objections have been filed. Renewal with a 20-day suspension of the Class B public entertainment premise and food dealer licenses based on the preponderance of the evidence in the police report that demonstrates the operation results in a threat to the health, safety, or welfare of the public. For the premise located at 6222 West Fond du Lac Avenue, doing business as Eve Dining in the 2nd Aldermanic District. No written objections have been filed. Renewal with a 10-day suspension of the hotel-motel license based upon the preponderance of the evidence in the police report that demonstrates the operation results in a threat to the health, safety, or welfare of the public. For the premise located at 5253 South Howell Avenue, doing business as Super 8 Motel Milwaukee Airport in the 13th Aldermanic District. Written objections have been filed.
Have the members of the Common Council read the reports or recommendations of the License Committee and exceptions filed in this matter? Roll call, please.
Alderwoman Pratt.
Yes.
Chambers.
Aye.
Rostov. Aye. Bauman.
Aye.
Westmoreland.
Aye.
Coggs.
Aye.
Rainey. Zamaripa.
Aye.
Taylor.
Aye.
Murphy.
Excused.
Borkowski.
Aye.
Spiker.
Aye.
Dimitrievich. Aye. Stamper.
Aye.
Mr. President,
Aye.
14 ayes, 1 excused.
14 ayes, 1 excused, the file is adopted.
That was
Oh, I'm sorry, reading of the file. Alderwoman Coggs moves that the Common Council resolve itself into the... Oh, sorry. Are any of the following councils present, and if so, do they wish to address the council? Yazir Salim. Oh, I get it, okay. Alderwoman Coggs moved that the Common Council resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole to hear any oral argument on behalf of the licensee and in opposition to the report and recommendations and the statement presented by the city attorney. Is there any objection? Hearing none, we are in the Committee of the Whole. Each side will be limited to 5 minutes, and the argument shall be limited to the subject matter of the report and recommendations and the written exceptions. Sir, you have 5 minutes.
So thank you for giving me a time to speak on my behalf. We have been noticed from the licensee to attend a meeting for renewal of our license. So I'm representing Super 8 Milwaukee, 5253 South Howell Avenue, which is over the property last year, as we discussed in our previous meeting, that initially, as we had a hard time to cope up the things with the problems we have to face initially, but we know now how to go through with those things. Initially, we didn't have the security. We didn't know that how the Milwaukee works because we are new in this city. But now we know. We had a meeting with Alderman Spiker, we had a meeting with MPD, and we have discussed with them and everything. We have showed them the property. So we have a security on site now. We have them on board. We have a plan how we are going through with all the problems we have to face, and we are making sure that it won't happen in future. And I'm just requesting to go ahead and accept our plan, and I make sure that it won't happen again. Thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. President.
1 second.
My bad.
Alderman Spiker?
I have something for afterwards.
Okay. Alderman Stamper?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I apologize. I missed it. What did he do?
It's a hotel, motel. It's
Yeah, but
called Super 8.
what did you do wrong?
What is what?
What did you do wrong?
I didn't get it.
Did you do anything wrong? Did you do anything incorrect?
No, actually, we didn't do anything incorrect from our side. We have just, initially, we have like homeless issues or a lot of people who are coming with intoxicated or welfare checks and stuff like that. So we have to call the police department multiple times to cope up the situation. So that was basically it.
What's the address again?
It's 5253 South Howell Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53207.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Okay, sir, you can step down. Okay.
Thank you all.
Alderman Spiker, do you have a motion?
Uh,
Oh, I'm sorry. Is the Assistant City Attorney here? Okay, let the record reflect they're not represented.
They're not?
Are there any? Okay, Alderman Cox moves that the committee now rise. Hearing no objections, so ordered. Alderman Spiker.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the applicant whose representation left, and so I think that's why our city attorney left as well, I did meet with the applicants and District 6, the community liaison officers. We did work out a plan of abatement to address some of the issues relating to calls for service. They are hiring security and taking a number of other steps to abate the issues that we spoke about in committee. So with that, notwithstanding the recommendation of the Licenses Committee, I would move renewal